Find the time, freedom, and financial independence you can have through entrepreneurship. Whether you're a buyer, seller, franchisee, franchisor, or a consultant, find everything you need to know about franchising right here. Welcome to the Level Up with Nick Lopez show.
Welcome to the Level Up show with Nick Lopez, where we have the absolute pleasure of learning from thought leaders in business, franchising, and high performance personal development. Today's guest most certainly goes without exception. And today we have a special episode of the Perseverance series. And today's guest certainly has an inspiring story, and I am excited to help you level up. But without further ado, I'd like to welcome, let me say it is my honor, the owner of Lime Painting of Northern Pittsburgh, Diana Edwards. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Nick.
It's awesome having you on, Diana. And I'm just going to jump right into it. How did you, out of all things you could have done in life, Diana, you became a business owner, and you chose Lime, which is so exciting, as so many folks that are watching this show have also done. But I would like to hear from you. How did you hear about Lime, and ultimately, why did you become a business owner with Lime Painting?
I was job hunting and I heard about Lime from a franchise broker. And he had done several personality tests, and he matched me with this and two other franchises. But this one appealed to me because I have had my own business before in IT, but I like the fact of having my own company. And I like to do DIY, do things, paint. You can see from my background, I do a lot of crafting. So the creativity is there. I never get to spend enough time with it. So this allowed me to open doors to help people achieve results that they're after in their homes, because a lot of times people don't even know where to start. So I'm able to bring to them quality workers and help them, figure out color use and stuff. I know who to go to for that. So I've become kind of a one size fits all for customers, and because I'll walk in and I'll say, once we get through the first initial stages, they build that trust with me, and then they're like, well, do you know anybody that does this? Do you know anybody that does that? So I've kind of reached out to other companies, partnered with them, and now we have this thing that's just really getting off the ground, where they're sending me their customers and I'm trying to send them my customers. So yeah, it took care of a point in my life when I was like, I don't feel like I'm being productive. I'm not helping people out. And this appeared, and I'm like, God put this here for me, and I have to listen. So yeah, that's kind of how I got started.
Yeah, that has been your story from day one. Personally, I've known it, right? And it certainly is inspiring. That's why I was wanting to share it with the Lime fam. And I want to dive into some questions here, Diana, that speak to just your entrepreneurship, your spirit for creativity, serving customers, solving problems, but ultimately the perseverance in all of that. And so thank you for that intro, a little bit of context on your start at Lime. But, what's one moment when everything felt like it was falling apart, but you showed up anyway?
It's kind of like every day, Nick, because, we, you have a bunch of proposals out and you're waiting and waiting for people to respond, you send them the emails and stuff. And it's really easy to get caught up in that. And what I've been teaching myself to do was put that aside and just keep going. Just keep going. Just keep looking. Check into situations outside the box. Don't rely on everything coming from one source because that's not going to work. And build your relationships with as many other businesses as you can. Do the canvassing when you're in the neighborhood because that was a really big issue. It still is for me because when you have the police saying, if you do that, we will pick you up, that's kind of a deterrent. So I just pray a lot, and I know God has my back. When I get really scared and worried about making this happen, I just remind myself of that. So, and every time I do, it's kind of crazy. I get a phone call or I get a site submission. Yesterday, that happened. I'm sorry, the day before yesterday. And I looked the house up immediately because I always do that. And it's a $2 million house in a neighborhood full of $2 million homes. And I'm driving through yesterday. I'm like, oh, yeah. So building the rapport with the customer is paramount. And you have to go beyond, this is just what I'm here for. The lessons that you've taught about getting to know them and talk to them like they're people. Not everybody's easy to do that with, but find a common ground. And the next thing you know, your signs in your yard, the neighbors are saying, hey, so yeah, every day, I honestly, it's hard every day until I see those numbers really escalate. It's going to be an everyday fight, but I'm here to do it. I don't start something without stopping it till I'm done.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the commitment that you make to yourself and the determination to see that through is what's inspiring about entrepreneurship, whatever that vision is, and getting good at creating value in the marketplace. It takes time, like anything, getting in stride um, and building up your pipeline, whether it's your lead flow, how you go about generating those leads and presenting and following up and um, producing the project and creating satisfied client and referrals and compounding. The great thing is that um, our business is designed to do just that. And so I love the fact that you are not living in your pipeline. You're focused on the next opportunity, the next relationship, and not putting all your eggs in one basket. Although you want to put your best foot forward in that opportunity and building that relationship. So well said, Diana. And so, when did you realize that perseverance, not perfection, was the key to building your business?
I learned that lesson a long time ago when I had my IT business. And um, you have to have perseverance because if you don't, you're going to fail. You're what keeps you going. Yeah, and a lot of people probably would have chickened out at this stage of the game. That's just not in my warehouse. I don't. Once I start something, I'm gonna follow it through as far as I can take it, and I'll know because God's gonna let me know when I need to back off and hand it over, turn it over, do something different. That just doesn't even. It's not even in my wheelhouse to say no. I failed at that. I have had failures. I have, but not for lack of trying. Put it that way. And this is not going to fail. I'm not going to let it fail. And I talk with other business owners because I get calls every once in a while from other new owners. They're like, well, how are you doing this and that? And I love doing that. I love sharing what I have done with them because it helps reinforce our connection. And, I give them ideas that they maybe hadn't thought about. Like, I have to say that having the front door restoration, I don't really like those projects, but how it opens up so many projects for me. And you go in and you do a really good job, and they're going to remember that. So, yeah, it's not in my wheelhouse to fail. It's just not.
Yeah, and if you have that perspective of perfection or a perfect outcome, uh, it can be discouraging
Mhm.
if you don't realize that in that moment. And that's okay. It doesn't mean you're not going to realize it. It means that perseverance has to kick in as you're growing to perfecting the Lime Way, the model. And
Mhm.
that is critical. You talk about executing and understanding. Okay, what are my minors? What are my majors? And uh, what are the appropriate times for those minors and those majors? And then best prioritizing your time around those majors and minors. And if you're on the front end of growing your portfolio or you're new to the business and growing a client base, I you'll have to be in a season of lead generation and sales, um, and that is different than being in year 4 where you have those things established. Your minors and majors are different in year 4 versus year 1 or year 2, where a lot of your time is spent in brand building and guerrilla marketing and community engagement, and um, prospecting new projects and relationships. That is done, um, frankly, every year, but it's more of a major when you're building up those leads. And so, yeah, perseverance is key when you're talking about consistency and executing to create results. And it's so easy, especially in that season, to over focus on the opportunities in the pipeline. I talk a lot about living in your pipeline, and that's something you don't want to do. And personally, I remember, being in my first few years, and I speak it because I learned it firsthand that if you're living in your pipeline, it's going to be discouraging because, frankly, you're not going to bat 1,000. And when you're new, you might bat half of the average closing or 75%, or you might be right at the average, but you're going to build and close that gap as you learn. But again, having a perfectionist mindset doesn't really allow for that perseverance to unfold. It's kind of the opposite there. Perfectionism and
Mhm.
perseverance feel like it doesn't really give uh, you the bandwidth to persevere when the goalpost is a perfect goalpost. And usually that's always moving back. It's not anything close because perfection is it's elusive. So yeah, well said. And just you speaking is inspiring me. So my goodness, I want to move on though. I was curious, what's the hardest door you've ever had to knock on, and what did you learn when it finally opened?
The hardest door was the first one, absolutely. But it didn't open. But it it gave me resolve to keep going. And I'm like, okay, this isn't so bad. So the first door that opened, this lady who she looked at me with such disgust. I was like, wow, but I'm not going to let that affect me. I mean, maybe she's having a bad day. Maybe there's something going on in her life. She's sick, her husband's sick. You don't know. You just don't know. And so, I just told her what I was, walking through the neighborhood. And she softened up. I could see it. She got a little less defensive. Um, and I didn't get a job out of it. But yeah, that was probably one of the hardest ones when people open the door and they're already angry. That's kind of a kick in the teeth. So, but you can't let that stop you. You just don't. But I do look for other ways outside the box. Community gatherings. You never know. Like there's a lot of big communities around here, big money communities, beautiful parks, beautiful communities, and they have picnics and stuff. So my next game plan is to try to get into one of those. They'll have like a festival or something in the community. They're coming together to achieve something and start making connections there. Because I really feel it's way more powerful when you can talk to these people in an environment that they don't feel like you're invading their space. You know what I mean? When you knock on the door, then they open it, you're in their space. Whereas if you're in a park at a community gathering, everybody's just, they're out there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense, most certainly.
So it's that kind of thinking that doesn't let bad door knocks get me down, because I'll find something at the church where I go to church. Ben Roethlisberger goes to my church. I stood up in the pew one day and turned around. There he was. I'm like, oh, hi. But yeah. There's you can't let yourself get down. It'll just destroy your drive.
So, do you dedicate specific time to, whether it's community events or, um, you know, uh, a BNI group, you name it? There are multiple avenues to network in the community, that you would call that our industry contact route.
Hmm.
Right. And so that industry contact route could be realtors, property management companies, um, networking events, I, everything in that respect is quote unquote a door being knocked, right? It's a cold call, introduction, and uh, that is one that is certainly one lead source. Another would be digital marketing. um, SEO is another one. Direct mailers are another one.
Hmm.
um, Obviously canvassing within our ideal subdivisions, and each lead source has a certain percentage of your overall leads. One may be 50%, and that's your biggest
Hmm.
proven lead source. And it's important to be aware of that, and that's going to obviously keep you from living in your pipeline, because you have new leads, new opportunities, and it's a matter of understanding, hey, if I close a third here and my average ticket is 10 grand and my monthly expenses are this, I need to book this amount every month, which means I need this many leads every week, which means I need to protect this much of my time every day for one of those lead sources. I guess paid is not necessarily something that you would protect your time for, but you would certainly ensure that you're making that spend and tracking, um, you know, those leads there, to make sure that your ROI is consistent with where you're putting your time or your money, and obviously both. Um, but yeah, I could nerd out on that all day. Appreciate you sharing some of your thoughts around, as you put it, getting, uh, you know, kicked in the teeth there, and persevering as you're um, going about building your business, because that's ultimately what it is, right? It's serving your community, and bringing value. I can't believe that I canvassed for 12 years personally. And I would hit like maybe, 150, 200 doors a day
Wow.
when I was in my race to 100.
Hmm.
And, really just solely focused on lead gen, because there's a lot of ways that you can generate leads, but it takes time and you usually got to pay for it. What I always loved about going to somebody's home was that I knew the subdivision. It was, for me, $1 million, $2 million home. When I got later in my career, I focused specifically on $2 million plus, really loved $20,000 plus jobs. So I'd spend a lot of time there. I almost set a minimum of 20K. Um, but when I was developing those habits and skills, I would make sure that I was going to an area that was $1 million, $2 million, and there was need. It had sun damage, it had water damage, and if so, then I knew that, okay, I can bring value here, because you have a really expensive home, and that's really expensive metal or really expensive brick or stone or wood, whatever it was. And if it had sun and water damage, I was excited.
Hmm.
Because that you can't lie about. Need
Hmm.
is clear as day. It's like, but if it doesn't have need, oh my gosh, well, they're probably going to look at you like, meh. Or if you're in a neighborhood where they're at a demo and you're mentioning, hey, your gutters are leaking onto your windows and got a lot of water damage down there on the deck, and somebody in demo that has nice landscaping and a Range Rover in the driveway, and you're well dressed, well spoken, respectful,
Hmm.
you know, X% are going to say, sure, I'll take a free quote. And so for me, that was something that made, I don't even know, I don't even have enough experiences on one or two hands to point to the times I was kicked in my teeth. I know that I witnessed that happening, you know, and I had some good chuckles with friends that I was training. And, um, it happened to me way back. I remember I was probably 16, 17, and I was doing fundraising for a nonprofit, and I didn't know what I was doing at the door.
Hmm.
And the mentor I was with had to take over, and I just about kind of, I didn't even get the job. Actually, we went back to the office, and they told people who could stay, who was going to get the job, and then everyone else didn't get the job. And I was like standing in the hallway waiting, and I just never got the job. Um, and that was my introduction to canvassing, and I was really young. And but I think what worked for me with painting when I went to college, that was my first experience canvassing, and then all of a sudden in college, that's how I'm getting jobs. But for me, I was so convicted. You talk about perseverance. I was so darn determined as an 18, 19-year old. Like you said, Diana, it's like, I'm just going to figure it out. I made a commitment here. I'm going to figure it out. And so, yeah, your journey is just so inspiring, and I appreciate you sharing it. It is just bringing about a lot of exciting thoughts on my part. But yeah, moving on, Diana, to my next question. How do you lead your team when you're running on empty, but the mission still matters?
Um, I am my team. So at some point I'm going to branch out, but I see just from some of the numbers that we talk about on our get-togethers, and the how many leads you'll get out of how many door knocks and stuff. I would have to definitely focus on keeping everybody positive, you know. And one of the things I do when I do go to a new site to do a site visit or meet a new customer or knock on a door is the mindset. I try not to think of this as a job. I try to think of it like I'm going to meet somebody new and make a friend, and it helps me not have that sales pitch look. You know what I mean?
Right, right,
And, or I don't. I can't work up the Jim Ward look. I can't do it. where they open a door and you instantly have that puppy face. I don't have that. Jim has that. But um, yeah, I would definitely, it would have to be an ongoing thing because this is not easy for when you're out there constantly trying to, make that next sale. And I think that's why I've found partnering with other companies. Like my neighbor's sister and her husband do fences. They build fences. They need somebody to refer their customers to paint their fences. So I'm thinking along those lines as well, because that's repeat business. And, I don't want to, if I see one of my team members starting to get down, I'm going to switch them into something else for a while. And that would be my approach to keep everybody on a positive track.
Right. And you've built up some artisan crews, right, that are helping you serve clients.
Oh yeah, I have I have three crews. Well, I have more than that, but I work with two of them the most. And these guys teach me a lot because I pepper them with questions and I help them. I don't just go to a job site and watch. I actually get in there with them and want them to train me on the technique. Not so much because I'm going to go out and do it on my own. I'm kind of past that stage. I wish I were 20 years younger, but I'm not. But it helps me when I meet with customers. Now I have that knowledge base. And I love working with them. I mean, I want to get in there. It's hard for me not to be in there helping them do stuff. So respect your crews. I mean, you have to show them the respect they deserve, learn from them, and encourage them. I'm always make sure that they're doing well also. And I'm like, what do you guys, are you really busy? Because, I have some stuff that might be coming up and just trying to, it's tough right now. You know that it's really tough right now. And finding painters around here in Pittsburgh it's not easy, but the competition is still there. Does that make sense? Because, yeah, I do have, I had a company call me out of Florida. I can't remember the name of it, but they were trying to recruit me for their their company, doing what I do. And I kind of chuckled. I said, "Look, dude, that's exactly how I operate." And I tried to build a rapport with them because why not? That they didn't want to talk to me. So because they had like 55 jobs, and I'm trying to figure out how did they get those, and who are they? How are you getting crews for that? Because I don't think they're paying very well. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm forever positive.
Right. I was thinking as you were talking, I can't tell you how many times I was motivated to keep my crews busy.
Hmm.
And, obviously, as I grew over time and added account managers, I was equally motivated to keep them busy. But, whether I was owner operator or had a team, I can remember and relate to a deep conviction to keep them employed and busy. And that is our duty in the community in creating jobs. And obviously we're solving clients issues with water and sun damage and color transformations, which is your forte. But I always resonate with being convicted. You talk about perseverance. So much of what I do is a conviction, and it doesn't quite exist yet. But you know what? Through conviction and perseverance, it exists. And speaking that from 18 years in the business, there are so many seasons where versions of the business didn't exist yet, but I was working toward it. I was persevering toward it.
Hmm.
And I've always loved that about your makeup, Diana. Obviously you're somebody that's convicted by the Lord, and I can personally relate to that. And your heart for um, serving others, well, um, persevering through that process. And I know you having business owner experience in the past, has built a lot of that, which obviously makes you you. So again, yeah, I was excited to share your story with the Lime fam. So again, thank you so much. And so I want to ask you another question. So what's one failure you're now grateful for because it forced you to level up?
Um, Not having jobs come through that I thought I had, and it was a big thing because it's like, okay, I'm putting too much into this thing, and one of the crew members, or one of the crews that I have, he is always telling me it'll be okay, it'll be okay, just stay in there, and these jobs will come through. People may not call for a while, but they'll call you in a few months. And it has taught me patience more than anything, and back to perseverance. I don't let it go. I just move on to the next one. That person will come back around if they really want it done, because I know in my heart they're going to find out that our prices and our commitment is above and beyond what they're going to find elsewhere. And I'm not sure if I lost you. There you go. You're back.
Right.
Yeah.
Uh,
And did you catch all that?
of course. Yeah. And I totally um, understand where you're coming from
Mhm.
with, obviously your painters having some context around um, just the industry and
Mhm.
how clients can come out of nowhere. And that's why it's important to not live in your pipeline
Mhm.
and to focus on the next opportunity, the next relationship, and keep your proposals sent consistently flowing, especially while you're ramping up and generating a client base, lead generation, proposals sent, follow ups, pricing, and proposals. That is the name of the game when you're building your business. Diana, just so that the audience knows, when did you launch your business? How many months are you in now?
I launched in July of last year, so I have been in it since almost a year.
Yay. All
Yeah.
right. So 12 solid months in the business, launching in July. Obviously, launching in July, it's right in the middle of prime time, much like what we're in right now. But yeah, some of my favorite markets, like Boise, Idaho, or St. Louis, very similar to Pittsburgh in that they're not Chicago or New York or Miami, where there are these really big markets. Um, and yeah, somebody's going to live in a $500,000 home instead of a $2 million home,
Mm-hmm.
but the labor is going to be less. Subcontractors are going to be less expensive,
Mm-hmm.
um, and yeah, just overall cost of living is relative, but that's why Whole Foods exists in your neighborhood or in your city. People do want to pay more to get more. They obviously don't want to overpay, so indexing your pricing, getting that dialed in for your market, just so that we're consistently coming in at number one or number two in terms of the highest price. And uh, that's such an important part of making sales and people closing and building momentum and being able to serve folks when you show up as a friendly neighborhood painter. You can fulfill those needs that they have through our services because you've persevered through the learning curve that goes with lead generation and sending proposals and getting the pricing dialed in and role playing respin and tailoring that to our 4 personality types, it takes time. And depending on the time of year that you're launching in, whether it's July, it's going to take some months, and then you hit a period in the holidays where we're not selling Christmas lights and holiday decorations, so it's not our prime time. But and so yeah, getting through year one is a little bit awkward, and just because of some of the timing and learning curves, and a lot of that's overlapping. But I'll tell you what's consistent is expenses every month, right? And so that is the reality of being an entrepreneur, this ticking timer, if you will, that is constantly in the back of your mind. And depending on the day, can feel really heavy or light. And usually it's a byproduct of clients that are signing. And so, yeah, focusing on the number of leads that you're acquiring every day and every week, fundamentally that number is really all that matters. There's a lot of things that can be done, but every day is saying, hey, did I get 1 lead today? And if at the end of the week you have 5, my gosh, that's a great starting place to start stacking 2 and 3 leads per day, whether it's going to builders or realtors. Or I love your mention of the contractors, right? And that being a part of our industry contact route. But there are so many vendors that are serving clients that can partner with us, and vice versa. And that lends itself to just, a percentage of your overall portfolio. X percent is going to be these contractors. And when's the best time to focus on them, right? Going back to minors and majors, and really protecting your time around lead gen. If you're needing to cover bills, you can get a 50% deposit. And if you sell a $10,000 job, collect a $5,000 deposit, $5,000 in 1 month is going to cover a lot of bills. So what does it take to do that, right? At a very basic level, and building and compounding from there. But having those routine habits that produce revenue, and that is the name of the game, generating revenue. And that is why lead gen and respin are so paramount. And sometimes marketing takes a while to get built up depending on the market, right? You're spending, but it's taking time. And so by going direct to contractors or realtors or neighborhoods, that's going to allow you to get those lead quotas that you need. And you're going to get hooked on them because you're going to see, okay, this one's 40% of my portfolio. Ooh, this one's really great. And over time, you'll have those levers that you can continue to adjust. And yeah, thank you, Diana. Appreciate it. But I want to ask you another question. So how did you push through when the business wasn't growing as fast as your effort?
I guess it goes back to not quitting, once I start something. Plus, to be totally transparent, I do have a loan that I've got to pay back. So that gives me incentive. And I kind of do this cycle when I start worrying about that. I'm like, okay, God has my back. God put me here. And I guess I can't say enough about the faith. And you had asked me earlier about one of the factors that helped me decide on this franchise was the fact that it was born in a church meeting, that you guys had shared that at some point. So, yeah, I can't say it enough. You have to have faith in yourself. You have to have faith in God, and everything's going to fall into place. It just, because when you get really scared or you get really upset, it's like, what's the worst thing that could happen? Just imagine the worst thing that could possibly happen. And can you survive that? You're going to live through it. And that kind of like gives you a little bit of like, yeah, you know what? I'm not going to live in a street. My kids will take me in. I'll keep going. And that's pulled me through a lot of life experiences. So, yeah, it's perseverance. It's just put it in your mind. You're going to keep doing it no matter. You're allowed to have bad days. You're allowed. Just pick it up and keep going the next day.
Yay. Yeah, my gosh. I often say I don't know how I would be an entrepreneur if I didn't have my faith.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how I could do it. And I think that's life in general,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm biased, you know, and so you sharing that perspective, I can relate. And I have had, so many seasons where, I talked about a version of the business not existing yet, and I feel like that's my entire career, working toward the next version of the business,
Mm-hmm.
the next version of leads, the next version of revenue, the next version of, you name it. And uh, that is ultimately the beauty of entrepreneurship.
Mm-hmm.
And that is entrepreneurship. Creating uh, a world and a life and results and value that doesn't exist yet.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the beauty of a business, where you have a framework to do just that, deliver value. And in business, you have these departments like sales or, operations. In our business, I guess that'd be production. You have recruiting, finding subcontractors or account managers, you name it. And so all of those different processes for the departments make up the Lime Way, make up business in general, frankly.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so, yeah, I just, as I think about my journey, as you speak, Diana, I'm inspired by it. And when you talk about faith, it is, yeah, my gosh, the bedrock of me evolving in each of those departments or each of those skill sets, or working toward that next version of the business or the next milestone or goal that doesn't exist
Mm-hmm.
currently. And so, yeah, your perspective, Diana, it clearly aligns with mine. And that's exactly why I wanted to go into business with you. So, again, thank you for making the time and sharing your perspective. You're talking about faith there. It is something that is near and dear to my heart. So thank you. But what do you say to yourself on the days when the weight of ownership feels too heavy?
I look behind me. Um, I look and see where I've come and what I've achieved. And and it always amazes me because, not that I've been, done anything fantastic, but I look behind me and it's like, how did I make it through that? Raising my kids by myself and a lot of things that I just did. I just did it. I don't even know where I got the energy for it. I wish I had that energy now. But anytime I've gotten myself into a situation where I'm like, I can't do this anymore, I can't. I look behind me and I look at how far I've come doing what I've done. And it is such a boost because it's like, wow, I got this far. Why stop now? So get up, shake myself off, and get back out there and do it again.
Wow. Talk about goosebumps. Let's go. Uh, you
But
know, um,
that too. I mean, especially the thing that comes to mind the most was when my kids were little. I worked in Pittsburgh, which was 25 miles away, and I had three kids in three different sports, and I had to figure out ways to get them to where they needed to be because I couldn't be home in time to get them there. And I look back and it's like, how did I do that? I did it.
hmm,
I made it work. And if I can get through that, this is nothing, you know. But we are all amazing people. We are all able to do things more than what we think we can do. And we have to hold on to that whenever you get in a tight spot.
Well said. Well said, Diana. So looking back, what would you tell yourself on day one, knowing now how far you've come?
Um, I wish was, like I said earlier, I wish I had been 20, 30 years younger. Um, it would have been, I think I would have had I need a higher energy level than what I have at my age right now. It's a physical thing. It really is. I have a lot of energy, but for me to go out and climb up and down ladders and stuff is just not good for someone my age to be doing. I'll do it. I will do it if I have to. To finish a job, I will do it. But um, I don't know what I would do differently from day one. Maybe I would have hired someone, like a general manager or something, but I wanted to learn all the ropes myself. Because how do you expect someone to do something that you've never done? And you have to know that skill level. You have to immerse yourself in it, and then you hire someone because now you know how it needs to go. But that's probably one thing I would change. I probably would have hired someone back then. Right now, I kind of can't do that unless it's all commission, which Tyler is a wonderful coach. Um, and I've been talking with him to show me how he does that. How do you get people that process to come in and work on commission? Because I would love to learn that from him. He's great. I love him to death. He's so much fun.
Right. Yeah, Tyler is an awesome business coach and somebody that knows the Lime way very intimately, whether it's recruiting or minors and majors or respin or lead gen or, the list goes on and on and on. And I remember having a conversation with you, Diana, around just the season of life that you're in and why Lime based on this season. Because, yeah, to your point, right? Energy and, but just something about it made sense and continues to make sense. And so much of it is what's behind you and your perspective on what's behind you. And that is what I was hoping would be conveyed to our audience, because that is inspiring. And I love your commitment to following through on your vision of business ownership at Lime and there in northern Pittsburgh. And it's really just the start. So thank you for giving us a glimpse as you're in the forest, as you're in the arena, right? Stepping out and looking above the forest a little bit and allowing us to be inspired as you're performing in the arena. You're doing it. And so much of that is about perseverance and executing. And, we have all these thoughts and seasons of executing and how we're wrestling with getting in stride. And it's been so inspiring to see you level up, and the Diana that is sitting before me and speaking to all of these same fears. Clearly there are 12 months behind you, and I'm excited to see what you do in the next 12 months and beyond here at Lime. But Diana, I want to ask you one final question.
Okay.
Why do you love franchising so much?
I love the franchise part as opposed to doing it yourself, because a lot of my crews, obviously, they're all out there doing it themselves. But nothing was packaged for them, and that's why they like working with me, because of the franchise provided the professional look in the beginning, and you guided me into the different different ways of getting out in the market. You provide to me the ability to show, even if it isn't in my territory, what we can do from, like before and after pictures. That has carried it a long way. The professional website and the guidance on the marketing are the biggest things. Because otherwise, you're jump starting me. There's When you go into business, you never start at the finish line. But you are jump starting me to midway, where people look at my truck and they look at the way I handle myself, from the training and that, and they know that I'm not just starting out or struggling or stumbling along, which that gives them the confidence to go with it. Because you hear horror stories. We have them on the news almost every night about contractors ripping people off. I've had customers tell me their horror stories, and I segue that with, hey, I can help you with that too. I know of a service that will help you try to get that money back. So I have a genuine interest in each customer I come across. And the franchise allow me to do that because I'm not fighting so hard to build an image up front. It's already there. So, yeah.
Yeah. And, I spoke to it a little bit earlier. I don't know if you caught it, but my gosh, I remember, for years, well, frankly, up until just a few years ago now, I was operating our corporate stores on 20% deposits and even collecting 35%, about a third makes a big difference. And frankly, because of all the things you just mentioned, the national credibility of Lime, you can collect 50% deposits up front, and that makes a big difference. Obviously, getting started at 35% instead of 20. I believe our brand standard is about a 20% deposit, but just darn near day one, you can collect 35% because of where we're at as a brand today. And, 12 to 24 months in, you can collect 50%, depending on just kind of the situation. It could be day one. And so that makes, maybe it's a percentage of them, just depending on the relationship and the situation, where you collect, in year one, half at 50% and, the rest at 35, or maybe just as you're getting going and getting your own confidence, etc.
Sorry.
Oh, bless you. Let's go. Uh, yeah, I was just sharing that, 20%, 35%, 50% deposits, they make a big difference. And bless you.
Well, you know what? That leads to something that I would ask for some guidance on, because I've never thought about using those deposits to fund my going forward. Does that make sense? Because I'm thinking I got to collect this deposit. The job's not for a couple of months, but I got to put it away. I can't touch it because that's for that project. But I forget. I think it was Tyler. I can't remember who it was. Who said to me, "You need to use that to make your business grow." So that would be a really cool class. That if you guys could put something together for us.
Yay! Let's do that. So
Yeah,
good.
it's like, here's how you do that. Here's
Yeah.
how you don't get caught up short on it, because I can see where it could be a problem.
Right. Cash flow in the business with the different seasons, and
Yeah.
even just making those small tweaks, 20%, 35, 50% deposits. And yeah, just how do you look at your burn? And yeah, that would be a great class to talk about. And so, yeah, thank you for that suggestion, Diana. And thank you for giving your time here and helping our family here at Lime level up through your inspiring style of perseverance as a fellow business owner here at Lime. So thank you again. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
And if you want to reach out to Diana, obviously just shoot her a Slack. And D. Edwards at Lime Painting is how you can reach out. But yeah, hopefully this was an awesome show, something that gives you a glimpse into perseverance and what it takes to continue building a lime painting business. Until the next one, level up.
Take care.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Level Up with Nick Lopez show. Remember, it's never too late to get started on your entrepreneurial journey. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share if you enjoyed today's segment. Catch us again next week and visit limepainting.com for more of the Level Up with Nick Lopez show.